Welcome to my first Senate prediction of the year 2020. This is going to be my August 18th edition of Senate predictions, and I'm going to be talking to you about how the Republicans will keep the Senate as of right now. Now, I'm telling you this because if you were to look at the polls, I am right. But first off, let's look at Idaho. Will it flip? No. Will Wyoming flip? No. Okay, we're keeping Oklahoma. We're keeping Arkansas. Tom Cotton is a great senator. Tennessee, Mitch McConnell, no surprise, will win. Shelley Moore Capito will win, etc. South Dakota, safe Republican. We're looking at a lot of states here. Oregon, not going to flip. Dan Sullivan, I believe, of Alaska, or whoever it is definitely going to win. When you look at other states that are safe for the blue, who's going to win in Massachusetts? It could either be Ed Markey or it could be Joe Kennedy, but either one is going to be the winner of the Senate in Massachusetts. Rhode Island, which is a terrible state for Republicans, that will never go Republican for the next several years. This is going to be a Democrat stronghold this year. New Jersey, Democrat. Delaware, Lauren Witzke in the Senate will not make it even close against Chris Coons. It'll be a complete bloodbath. People that tell you otherwise are like, they're very slow, probably. And if you would see Nebraska, is this going to go R or D? I'm definitely going to say it's going R. And we look at more competitive states, and you can see that there's a lot of polls for these, and we're going to be talking about those. So, again, let's look at F538. It's a terrible website, but I'm just going to I'm going to entertain their ideas, and we can see that Ernst is losing in the polls, but the polls are gay. So if you know that a Republican is barely losing in the polls, you can pretty much tell that Republican is going to win the election, right? Ernst is probably going to win Iowa within a couple of points, so that's going to Ernst. All right. Now, when we look at states such as Texas, it has MJ Hagar, who I don't even know who that is, losing to Cornyn, which means that he's going to win by a huge margin, a safe margin, in fact. I think that he could win from anywhere from 7 to like 12 or 14%. I'm going to give him the median number of 10, which makes it basically a safe state. And as we can see, Republicans are leading so far in this election. Now, if we look at states that are a little more competitive than Texas, you can see North Carolina, where Cunningham is beating Tillis in almost all of these polls, which is not a good thing. But at the same time, the Democrat does not have over 50% of the vote, meaning that this could go either way, ostensibly is what I mean. As we can see, Cunningham is pulling a couple of percent ahead, but considering that Donald Trump is on the ballot, and since I do think that Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina by a couple of percentage points at least, it would be able to carry Tillis. Tillis is not a great candidate, but Cal Cunningham at the same time is not a superstar either, so I don't think he's going to benefit too much from Sleepy Joe at the top of the ballot. And then when we look at Virginia, important state for Senate, no, it is not. And in fact, people are talking about this guy who's running for the Virginia Senate, and yet there's no polls for it because they know who's going to win. Virginia's kind of a lost cause. This is not George W. Bush. This is not even McCain times where Republicans were still competitive in 2010. No, this is 2020, and it's trending in the other direction, okay? So because of this, I do believe that Virginia is going to go for Mark Warner likely, all right? Now, if you look at other states that are competitive, we have the great state of New Hampshire, and New Hampshire is going to go to Maggie Hassan, I believe. And I think this because, again, low polling. We don't know who the Republican is. There's no nominee, and if there is one, I don't know of it because they're not relevant at all. So clearly they're going to lose New Hampshire. And in fact, the Democrat could probably win the Senate election lean and Trump win it lean because the irrelevancy of the Republican nominee will completely just not benefit the Republicans in the state at all, and it'll get overlooked. This is a close state that's going to be completely overlooked in 2020. And then when we look at another state such as Maine under Susan Collins, you could feasibly understand that she is losing in a lot of the polls. But a lot of these polls are fake news. And you could also see that Gideon is winning by 43 to 38, so clearly there's a ton of undecideds, and typically she does win the undecided vote every election, so because of that reason, I do think she'll win it by a couple of percentage points over here. Whether or not that means that she'll distance herself from the president or not doesn't really matter as long as we have a Republican in the state and not Sarah Gideon. Now, Alabama, this is a really close race. Psych, you're a retard if you think that. Look, LTE and God of Politics can tell you, well, Doug Jones could get within a couple of percent. No, he's going to get his back blown out by Tuberville. Now, surely Jeff Sessions would have been the better candidate. Perhaps he would have been better on immigration. But again, we are what we are, and if the people of Alabama spoke and they said that Jeff Sessions is a coward, snake, manlet, with the lisp or whatever, or no, it's Graham, sorry. But anyways, the people of Alabama have spoken in the primary, and largely they voted for Tuberville, meaning that Tuberville is going to have the popular support to beat Doug Jones safe, no question, likely fine. I'll concede you that point, leftist. Now, when we're talking about South Carolina, another state that people, for whatever reason, are looking at, and clearly Graham is still winning by 1%, and sure, he might underperform Trump's like 9 or 10% win in that state, but still, I do think that overall, Lindsey Graham will prevail in the great state of South Carolina by a couple of percent at the least against that black guy that he's running against. No, not Tim Scott, Jamie Harrison, all right, who's a political opportunist ladder climber. Anyway, let's go to the state of, which one are we going to be looking at next? Minnesota. Minnesota, again, the Democrat typically does not have over 50% of the vote, meaning that it could theoretically go to the Republican, okay, all right? But at the same time, you can see over here that that clearly Jason Lewis isn't going to do too great, and Trump, I think, would have to win the state of Minnesota by over 3% in order to make him have a good shot of winning, meaning that I give his odds right now at 35 to 40% of winning the Senate seat, so not very good. So I would say that the Democrat Tina Smith, who was appointed in 2018, I believe, to be winning by a lean margin. All right, this won't be a bloodbath, but at the same time, this is a very overlooked race. Just like New Hampshire, it'll be a close state in the presidential election. That'll be probably a safe state for the senator to win on the Democratic side by a lean margin, of course. And then when we look at another state such as Michigan, you can see that Gary Peters is beating James, the black Marine, Air Force Apache pilot, who has a great record and great credentials, but at the same time, he is losing all of the polls, which probably means that he's going to get it really close to the wire. And if Donald Trump wins Michigan, James has about 55% odds of winning. In fact, if the only reason why James lost in 2018 was because of the midterm year. So I think that if you take away that midterm year, and if Joe Biden wins the popular vote by less than 2%, and if Trump wins Michigan by over 1 or 2%, I do think that James will win. And in fact, I think at this point, if there's going to be 4 debates, and since John James beat the incumbent senator in all the debates, and if he can pull that off again against Gary Peters, who's less powerful, who has less money than Stabenow, then I think that he could really pull this off in a margin tilt. This is a really close one, but I will be definitely eyeing this one, as John James could be a future presidential candidate in 2024, 28, whatever. Very good. The new Obama, okay. I only say that because he's black, but still a very important person for the upcoming election. Now we have the great state of Montana next. Montana isn't going to be close. People say, well, he's leaning over Bullock. Well, look, Daines is winning by 6 in a lot of polls, right? He is winning bigly, and people don't give him credit. And I think that he needs to get the credit he deserves. Steve Daines is a Republican in Montana. What the hell else do you want? Just like Mitch McConnell. Maybe they're not the stars. Maybe they're lame. But at the same time, they're clearly going to win this one, right? So let's go on to the state of Montana. We're going to give Steve Daines a likely margin. In fact, his handling of the coronavirus doesn't matter because he's a senator, and the handling of the coronavirus under Steve Bullock is popular, but his popularity and overall sensational nature in the state of Montana as a Democrat is waning. His influence is waning. His lackluster performance in the 2020 presidential election, and the fact that he's going to the Senate is kind of a bad look. So I do think that he will lose by approximately 8%, if that, in Montana. So this is a likely to safe red state. And as you can see, the Republicans keep the Senate, but let's see how big of a majority they get. Now, if you look at the polls in Georgia, you can see that Purdue is going to definitely win. And I say this because if you were to click on 538, he's tied or he's winning in the polls, which means that since the polls are biased against Republicans usually, this will give him an overall boost, and he will be able to win this election by a lean to likely margin. All right. In terms of Georgia's second election, since there will be a runoff probably between Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins, I do think that Kelly Loeffler will beat Collins because there's no press around Collins, number one. Kelly Loeffler's triangulating to be more conservative, and she has the endorsement of a lot of important people. So I do think that Kelly Loeffler will win Georgia by, let's say, a lean margin. I don't really know about the particulars about this election anyway. Now, New Mexico is going to be basically safe to likely for the Democrat. This state doesn't even matter at all. New Mexico is not even relevant to anybody. Nobody's thinking about New Mexico, and nobody in their right mind thinks that we're going to win that state in terms of the Senate. So Lou John or Heinrich or whoever it's going to be running for 2020 is going to win. Now, in Kansas, people say, well, Chris Kobach lost, and Chris Kobach would have lost to Bollier. I don't think that's the case. I think he would have won, and handedly so, actually. Now, it would be closer than if we had Jimmy Carter's reincarnated neocon, congressman iteration, and that guy's name is Roger Marshall. And Roger Marshall clearly will win. His policies are very popular in the state of Kansas. He's definitely going to make this work, and he's going to bring the bag home for Republicans. And any Republican is better than any Democrat at the federal level that I can think of. So this is going to be safe, right? We have won every Senate election safe in Kansas since 2006, I believe, or 1996, something crazy like that. So we're going to do just fine there. Now, if we look at Colorado, we look at the great state of Colorado, and that thing is trending blue. Definitely, and it has been trending blue for the last 15 years. Hickenlooper is winning every single poll I'm seeing right now. And clearly, he's getting over 50% of the vote in some of these polls. So what that makes me think is that he's going to beat Gardner approximately maybe 48 to 45 or something like that. So this will lean Democrat. We were going to lose the seat, and I think Gardner knows it as well. And Gardner's not that popular. He's mediocre at best. Now, we're saving the best state for last, the most important state in the union, the best state in the country. This is Arizona, MAFSA country. This will go down to the wire. Now, if we look at the polls in Arizona, you could see right now that they're tied in this poll, which is the first time they've been tied. The margins are closing in for McSally. And this honestly reflects the Trump-Biden effect, actually, in polling. And as you can see here, most polls have Kelly not getting over 50% of the vote. And in some polls, they're neck and neck. And I think those polls are more accurate. And if you look at the polls from 2018, she just barely lost by 2%. Okay, so if it were in an alternate universe, if something little changed, she could have won the election. And it was a wave year. It was a midterm year. If somebody loses in a red state in a midterm year by 2%, clearly the swing isn't compensating for all of it. Meaning that if the state of Arizona goes red by more than 2%, McSally's still in the game. If Biden wins the state, she'll definitely lose, by the way. I think that McSally will win the election by the grace of God. I think that she will win tilt margin. Okay, this is a very important election, guys. Listen to me. All of these states are very close, and in fact, the Democrats could win the Senate, but I give them 15% odds. I honestly don't think that they'll be able to pull off flipping North Carolina, Georgia, keep Alabama, Arizona, Montana, Colorado, etc. That's just insane. Sleepy Joe's not going to get that done. But as of right now, as of August 18th, 2020, the Senate will stay Republican, and we will indeed flip Michigan and Alabama in exchange for Colorado. And that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching. Tell me what you think below. Are we going to keep the majority or not? Right now, I give Republicans an 85% chance of keeping the majority in the Senate.